I won a historic lottery jackpot and planned to keep it secret until Christmas Eve dinner to surprise my family and help them all. But 1 week before, my mom called and said, "Don't come, Elena. Your failure is contagious and we don't want that energy at the table." I stood there with the phone in my hand. I had almost given my life to people who didn't even want to sit with me. Let's begin. My name is Elena Vargas and I was 32 years old when everything changed. At the beginning of October I was fired from a marketing agency in Santa Fe. Officially they said it was an internal restructuring. The company was adjusting areas and my position was no longer necessary. But that was a lie. I had been working for months on a huge campaign for an important client. The project went wrong, yes, but not because of me. The decisions that sank everything were made by people in higher positions. People who never signed anything when there was risk but who always appeared in the photos when something went well. Someone had to take the blame. That person was me. That day I returned to my apartment in the Del Valle neighborhood trapped in afternoon traffic. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove with my hands gripping the wheel as if I still had to prove I could control myself. I had savings. I wasn't rich but I could live comfortably for several months and part of me felt relieved. My boss demanded impossible things, changed instructions at the last minute and then held me responsible for every error. I thought I would rest for a few days. I would get organized. Then I would look for another job. Then I called my family to tell them what had happened. "You should call Diego and apologize," she said. "Ask him if you can stay with him for a while." Diego was my ex-boyfriend. We had broken up 6 months earlier because he wanted me to leave my job, marry him, and dedicate myself to the house. I told him no, not because I despised that life, but because I didn't want a life chosen by someone else. "I'm not going to call Diego, Mom." "Well, you need somewhere to live if you can't pay the rent anymore." "I can pay my rent. I have savings." "Savings run out, Elena." "I know. That's why I'm going to look for another job." She sighed as if I were a stubborn child. Then my older sister Valeria called. "At the company where Dad still works they're hiring," she said. "I can talk to him so he can get you something. It's a basic position but better than nothing." "I'm a marketing specialist. I have 8 years of experience." "Yes, but right now you don't have a job." "I'm not going to take an assistant position as if I had just graduated from university." "You're not in a position to be demanding, Elena." Then my brother Alejandro called. "Maybe this is a sign," he said. "Perhaps you should focus on finding a husband instead of pursuing professional goals that aren't giving you anything." I hung up on him. During the following weeks my family started treating me differently. They didn't say to my face, "You're a failure." But everything in their attitude said it. My mom suggested diluting dish soap with water. My dad told me to stop using the car and Valeria sent me supermarket promotions as if I had never bought groceries. One Sunday I went to eat at my parents' house in Coyoacán. There was rice chicken in mole and hot tortillas on an embroidered napkin that my mom used when she wanted everything to seem familiar. I sat down and noticed something strange. No one wanted to sit next to me. They left an empty chair to my right and another to my left. It wasn't a coincidence. Valeria sat on the other side of the table with her husband. Alejandro settled next to my dad. My mom went back and forth from the kitchen more than necessary to avoid sitting near me. It was as if my bad luck could be contagious. I felt a horrible shame that stayed under the skin. But I said nothing. I ate slowly, smiled when I had to smile, and left early. The only thing that kept me sane was my small Friday ritual. Every Friday I bought 6 lottery combinations with the revancha and revanchita. It was 180 pesos. I had been doing it for years. Not because I believed I would win, but because I liked to imagine, even for a few minutes, a life where I didn't have to explain myself to anyone. The man at the authorized outlet already knew me. "This is the winning one, Elena," he would say. Every time my family knew about the tickets and mocked me. "What a way to throw away money," Valeria said. "Later, don't say you don't have enough," my mom said. I didn't care. It was my money, my small pleasure. At the beginning of December I bought my usual tickets. The accumulated jackpot was huge, one of those that make the news for weeks. But I didn't think too much about it. I arrived at my apartment, had a simple dinner, watched a series without paying attention, and fell asleep. The next morning I checked the numbers online while having coffee. I looked at my ticket, then at the screen, then back at the ticket. The 6 numbers matched. I sat there in front of the phone for almost 20 minutes. I could barely breathe. I checked again, refreshed the page, compared number by number, waiting to find the error. But there was no error. I had won more than 500 million pesos. My first impulse was to call my mom. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to imagine my dad proud, Valeria surprised, Alejandro asking for forgiveness for having spoken to me as if my life was worth nothing. I took the phone and started dialing, but I stopped. I thought about the last 2 months, about the empty chairs next to me, about the advice on diluting soap, about my dad telling me to walk to save gas, about Valeria treating me like an irresponsible poor person, about Alejandro suggesting that my dismissal was a sign to become someone's wife. I put the phone down. I would tell them someday, of course, but not yet. I would wait until Christmas Eve. I wanted to do it as a surprise. I would tell them during dinner and help them all. Valeria's house, credit the university for Alejandro's children, my parents' retirement. Yes, they had behaved badly with me, but they were still my family. Before telling anyone, I sought professional help. I hired a financial advisor specialized in large prizes and family assets. His name was Ricardo, and he was expensive, but all the reviews I found said he was one of the best. Congratulations, Elena, he said when we met. Now comes the important part. We have to protect this and manage it intelligently. He explained how to validate the ticket, start the formal collection, pay taxes, document everything, and not talk too much. After the withholding, it was still an absurd amount. Ricardo helped me put almost everything into investments, trusts, and reserves. What I left liquid was enough to live quietly, buy a house, and decide without hurry. He also gave me a warning. Your family is going to react when they find out. And not always as one expects. I've seen families break for less. They are my family, I said. They are going to be happy for me. Ricardo looked at me like someone who had heard the phrase many times. I hope so, he replied. I spent the following weeks imagining the news on Christmas Eve, the surprise, the hugs. My mom saying she was proud. 1 week before Christmas Eve, my mom called. Elena, we have to talk, she said. Her voice sounded calm, almost administrative. What happened? We have decided it would be better if you didn't come to dinner this year. I felt as if someone had punched me in the stomach. What? You don't have a job. You don't have clear plans. Lately you were very negative, and frankly we don't want to spend Christmas Eve with that energy. I stayed silent. Your attitude can ruin the night for the others, she continued. Mom, I didn't. Your failure is contagious, Elena. We don't want it to affect the rest of the family. It's not personal. We just think it's for the best. And she hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, unable to believe what I had just heard. To make sure it wasn't just her decision, I wrote to Alejandro. Did you know Mom uninvited me to Christmas Eve dinner? He replied in a minute. Yes, we all agreed. Sorry, but you've been very down. We want a peaceful Christmas Eve. Then I wrote to Valeria. Are you okay with me not coming to dinner? Her reply came shortly after. The truth is yes, Mom is right. You've been very difficult and you bring everyone's mood down. Use these days to organize your life. I should have cried. I wanted to cry, but I started laughing. I laughed so hard that tears came out. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. Because I had almost told them. I had almost shared a fortune with people who thought I was too much of a failure to sit with them on Christmas Eve. The next day I went to a dealership and bought a new truck, one of those I wouldn't have dared to look at before. I paid in cash. It cost a little more than 1 million pesos. When I drove out, I felt light for the first time in months. That afternoon Valeria called. Mom says you bought a new car, she said without greeting. How much did you spend? I had the means to pay for it. She laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. You're spending your last savings on a car. What a bad decision, Elena. When the owner of your apartment evicts you for not paying rent, you're going to end up living in that truck. I hung up on her. I spent Christmas Eve alone, but not locked up, feeling sorry for myself. I reserved dinner at an elegant restaurant in a hotel in Polanco. I ordered lobster, a good steak, and an expensive glass of wine. The bill was more than 5,000 pesos. I didn't care. That night, for the first time, I didn't have to pretend I was comfortable at a table where no one wanted to sit with me. 2 weeks later, I called a good real estate advisor, one who works with serious buyers. I'm looking for a luxury house, I said. Exclusive area, no strict budget limit, but I want discretion. His name was Roberto, and he was not surprised. I have several properties that might interest you, he replied. For 2 weeks we toured houses in Lomas de Chapultepec, San Angel, and Pedregal. Then I saw it. A house in Jardines del Pedregal for more than 40 million pesos, with garden, pool, high ceilings, and beautiful light. It wasn't flashy. It was elegant, silent, solid. It was perfect. I want to make an offer, I said. Roberto blinked. We can prepare it. The purchase didn't close in one afternoon. There was notary, legal review, appraisals, source of funds, and my advisors reviewing every page. Everything proceeded without setbacks. I paid in cash, and between procedures, furniture and moving, January and almost all of February passed. I hired a company to pack my apartment and a decorator to furnish the new house. I wanted it to feel like mine. I didn't tell my family anything. At the beginning of March I moved. The house was beautiful. My space, my property, my silence. No one could come in to give opinions or leave an empty chair next to me to remind me I wasn't welcome. 1 week after moving, the owner of my previous apartment called. Elena, your sister came looking for you. She was surprised to find other tenants. She wanted to know where you had gone. Thank you for letting me know. I hung up and waited. I knew Valeria would call. 2 days later, the parade of calls began. First Valeria, then my mom, then Valeria again. I ignored the phone for hours until I finally answered when my mom called for the 5th time. Where are you? She demanded. Not a hello or how are you. Just anger. You moved from the apartment. Where did you go? For a second I thought maybe they were worried, that they wanted to know if I was okay, that perhaps they felt remorse after leaving me out of Christmas Eve. Then my mom kept talking. If you're on the street, you can look for a shelter or sell that absurd truck you bought and use the money for a rental deposit. There went any doubt. I have somewhere to live, Mom. I don't need a shelter. Don't worry. I hung up. A couple of weeks later, the doorbell of my house rang. I looked through the window and saw Valeria at the entrance. Her mouth was open as she observed the facade, the garden, the high door, everything. I don't know why I opened. I suppose I still wanted to believe she came worried. How did you find my address? You forget my husband works in public security, she said. I asked him to look for it. I stared at her. That wasn't affection. It was invasion. That's illegal, Valeria. And if you use my information like that again, I'm going to report it. She didn't even apologize. She walked past me and entered the house as if she had the right. She walked through the living room, looking at the high ceilings, the furniture, the paintings, the light entering through the windows. Her face lost color. Who did you rob? She whispered. I didn't answer. I took out my phone and showed her the photo I had taken of the winning ticket. The image with the 6 numbers, the evidence that still seemed unreal when I saw it. Valeria looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. Her face hardened. She didn't say congratulations. She didn't say I'm happy for you. She didn't ask how I felt. She just turned around and left my house without saying another word. I knew what was going to happen next. The following day my phone wouldn't stop ringing. My mom called 4 times before I answered. What do you want? Valeria told us about the lottery. She said, we have to talk about this as a family. Your dad wants us to meet. Okay, you can come on Sunday afternoon. I gave her the address and hung up. On Sunday they all arrived. My parents, Valeria with her husband, Alejandro with his wife. They stood at the entrance looking at the house as if they couldn't believe I lived there. I had them come into the living room. They sat on the expensive sofas looking at every detail. No one knew how to start. So I started. I won the lottery in December. More than 500 million pesos. After taxes and protecting almost everything with advisors, investments and trusts, I'm fine. Very fine. The silence was total. I saw their faces while they processed the amount. I saw the disbelief transform into calculation. Then they began. Family is the most important thing. My mom said, we have always been there for you. I looked at her without expression. Alejandro leaned forward. I'm not asking for me. It's for the kids. You know how expensive university is. Valeria settled into the sofa. The house credit is drowning us. I'm not saying you have an obligation, but if someone could help us, it would change our lives. My dad cleared his throat. He almost never asked directly, but when money was talked about, he always became hard. Your mom and I wouldn't have to be asking you for anything. You know what corresponds. Not one of them said, congratulations. Not one of them said, I'm glad you're doing well. Not one of them asked what I had felt when I won, how I was handling everything, if I was scared, if I needed support. They only asked. I'll think about it, I said, but for now I want you to leave. They froze. Elena, my mom said. I want you to leave. I repeated. They got up with a mix of offense and confusion. As they walked toward the door, I heard my mom whisper to my dad. She is going to help us. She has to. We are her family. During the following week, my phone filled with messages. My mom sent me photos of when I was a baby. Remember who took care of you when you couldn't do anything alone? She wrote. Valeria talked about how close we had been as girls. My dad said he was proud of me. Alejandro repeated that his children were innocent and that I could change their future with a simple decision. I read everything. I didn't respond to anything. What caught my attention the most was what no one mentioned. No one talked about the Christmas Eve dinner. No one asked for forgiveness for having excluded me. No one said, "We were wrong about you." So I decided to do one last test. I wrote in the family group, "I have been thinking about donating almost all the money to a foundation." My phone rang in less than 30 seconds. It was my dad and he was shouting, "Are you crazy? Are you going to give millions to strangers? You can't be so irresponsible." Then I heard my mom take the phone from him. "You've lost your mind, Elena. What's wrong with you?" I hung up, but immediately a group video call came in. I don't know why I accepted it. Maybe because I wanted to see their faces one last time. There they were, all tense, angry, desperate. I heard Alejandro's voice in the background. "We have to talk to a lawyer. She can't make decisions like that. We have to see if someone can intervene before she wastes everything." I looked at my family on the screen. All furious, all talking about the money as if it were already theirs. "I'm not going to give you a single peso," I said. Then I ended the call and blocked their numbers. From then on they started showing up at my house. First my parents. They rang the doorbell for 10 minutes straight. I watched them from a second-floor window. My mom was crying. My dad paced back and forth looking at the security camera as if that would force me to open. I didn't open. The next day Alejandro and his wife came. Doorbell knocks, on the door messages that didn't arrive because they were blocked. Then Valeria appeared with her husband. Valeria said I was being cruel. Her husband looked around uncomfortably as if he finally understood that having searched for my address hadn't been a good idea. The house had cameras and hired security, but it wasn't inside a closed private area. They could reach the gate, ring, insist, leave notes. After the second visit I warned that I did not authorize the entry of anyone from my family and asked him to record every attempt. This continued for a week. They came to talk, to explain, to fix things, but I knew they didn't want to fix anything. They wanted to convince me, pressure me, tire me. I never opened. I also understood something. They weren't going to stop. They already knew where I lived. They could come back whenever they wanted. They could turn my house into another battlefield. I made a decision. I was leaving. I contacted a real estate advisor in Guadalajara. It was far enough from Mexico City so my family couldn't appear whenever they felt entitled. And it was a big city with good services and enough anonymity to start over. "I need a house quickly," I said. "I have the money ready. I want security, privacy, and discretion." In less than a week she found me a beautiful house, smaller than the one in Pedregal but equally elegant. In a quiet area with security and a lot of privacy. I signed a promise of sale with my advisors reviewing everything. The deed would close later without exposing my personal address. Then I put the Mexico City house up for sale. I hired another company to handle everything remotely. I didn't want to be present for visits. I didn't want to talk to curious people. I didn't want my family to know my movements. 2 weeks later I packed my things. The move started before dawn with the noisiest things prepared the night before. By the time the sun came out I was no longer there. I rested for a few hours in a small hotel far from the house and left for Guadalajara already in daylight. I took the highway, avoiding heavy departure time. Without counting stops it was almost 6 hours with breaks. It took me a good part of the day. I drove with a strange feeling in my chest. Sadness, yes, fear too, but above all relief. I settled into my new house. It was comfortable, bright, with a small garden. The most important thing was that no one there knew who I was or how much money I had. I changed my phone number, closed my social networks, cancelled old accounts. Ricardo had put the properties and my important movements under structures that protected my personal address. I cut all the ways my family had to contact me. All except one. My Aunt Amalia, my mom's younger sister. She lived in Merida and had always been different from the rest of the family. Quieter, warmer. As a child, she was the only adult who listened to me without correcting me every 2 minutes. I called her from my new number and told her everything. The lottery, the family's reaction, the house, the visits, my decision to disappear. "It's good that you left," she told me. I was surprised to hear her so firm. "They don't deserve your money or your peace. Can you keep my number secret? I want to keep talking to you, but I don't want anyone else to know how to locate me. Your secret is safe with me, daughter." With my new life in Guadalajara, I finally thought about what I wanted to do with the money. I decided to create a foundation, but Ricardo brought me down quickly. First, we established a civil association. Authorization as a donor would take time. So we started with our own resources, clear rules, and lawyers reviewing every step. I knew what it was like to lose a job and feel that everyone looked at you as if you had stopped being worth anything. I wanted to support fired people, single mothers, young people without money for university, and families at risk of losing their housing. I didn't want that money to become another way to hold me. I wanted it to serve, but with order. I started working there myself. Not just signing checks. I sat with the people, listened to their stories, reviewed cases, saw mothers crying because they would be able to keep their apartment one more month. I saw young people who couldn't believe someone would pay their registration. I saw men and women who had lost their jobs and needed a real opportunity, not a sermon. It felt good, better than any marketing campaign I had done. A few months later, we organized a dinner to present the programs and attract donors, businessmen and allies. I wore a nice dress, nothing flashy. I was talking with an important donor when a man approached. Elena Vargas, he said. I'm Fernando Arriaga. I have a technology company here in Guadalajara. I've read about the work you're doing. I'm interested in helping. He shook my hand naturally. He didn't look at my dress or my jewelry or the room. He looked me in the eyes. I would like to know what programs need financing. If you have time, we talked for more than an hour. Fernando seemed genuinely interested. He didn't talk about the foundation as an opportunity to look good. He asked concrete questions. How many families received support? How did we choose the cases? What follow-up did we give? When the dinner ended, we walked toward the exit. I like talking to you, he said, and not just about the programs. Would you like to have dinner with me? I laughed. Yes, I would like that. We started seeing each other frequently. First dinners to talk about the association, then coffees and outings that no longer had anything to do with work. Fernando made me laugh, listened, and didn't make me feel that my money was the most interesting thing about me. Even so, I went slowly. I told him parts of my story little by little. I told him about my family, about Christmas Eve, about the Pedregal house, about the visits. I didn't do it to get pity. I did it because I needed to know if he could respect my boundaries. He respected them. 6 months later, he proposed marriage. We were having dinner at his house. Nothing exaggerated or set up to show off. Just the two of us. Soft music, food that he had tried to cook even if it didn't turn out perfect. Suddenly he stood up, took out a small box and got nervous for the first time since I knew him. Elena, he said, I know what you've had to protect to be at peace. I don't want to invade that. I want a life with you. If you want it too. He opened the box. I said yes. Around that time my Aunt Amalia called me with news. Your family is going crazy trying to find you, she said. Your mom calls me every week to ask if I know anything about you. And what do you tell her? That I don't. What are they saying? That you stole from them, that you owe them, that you abandoned the family. Your mom plays the victim with everyone. She says she doesn't understand why you cut them off, that she only wanted to help you. They mention the money not directly. That doesn't suit them. They just tell it as if you had disappeared out of nowhere without reason. They know you moved. They know you're no longer in the Pedregal house. Someone told them it was sold, but they have no idea where you went. Good. Your mom tried to hire a private investigator, she added, but apparently you did things right. She didn't find a reliable address. I felt a deep relief. My plan had worked. I was really free. By the time the following year arrived, the wedding was near. We wanted something small, intimate, without drama or demands. The ceremony would be at the beginning of June with 20 people, close friends, some of Fernando's partners, a couple of people from the association, and my Aunt Amalia, who would travel from Merida. We rented a small garden on the outskirts of Guadalajara with bougainvillea, tall trees and simple tables. June could bring rain at any moment, but that afternoon the sky gave us a break. My Aunt Amalia arrived 2 days before. I picked her up at the airport and she hugged me for a long time. That afternoon we had coffee at my house. Your mom still says you abandoned her, she told me. She posts things on Facebook about ungrateful children and everything a mother sacrifices. Of course, I said, without mentioning that she had excluded me from Christmas Eve dinner because my failure was contagious. She doesn't tell that. And the others? Valeria says you are selfish and cruel. Alejandro talks less, but your mom says he is worried about his children's university. Apparently he was counting on you to solve it. Alejandro has a job. He can save for his own children. I know. I'm just telling you what I've heard. Do they know about the wedding? Not from me. I haven't told them anything. Thank you. My aunt extended her hand and squeezed mine. You did the right thing by leaving, daughter. One thing is family and another is letting them walk all over you. The wedding day arrived peacefully. Fernando and I said simple, honest vows in front of 20 people. No one interrupted. No one made a scene. No one demanded anything. At the reception I danced with Fernando. I hugged my Aunt Amalia and laughed more than I had laughed in years. My aunt gave a brief toast. She just raised her glass and said she was glad to see me at peace. That night, when everyone had left, Fernando and I sat on the terrace of the hotel suite. Are you okay? He asked. I mean about your family. That they weren't here. I took a deep breath. I'm fine. If they had come, nothing would have been about us. It would have been about them, about the money, about claims. They would have found a way to make it difficult. One day after the wedding, Fernando looked at me carefully. Are you sure you don't want to try to reconnect with them someday? I thought about it. I really thought about it. No, I said. In the end, they showed me exactly who they are. When I lost my job, they treated me as if I was worth nothing. They took away the Christmas Eve invitation because, according to them, my failure was contagious. And when they found out about the money, they didn't congratulate me, they didn't ask how I was, they just started asking. Fernando nodded. I just wanted to know if you were at peace with that. I am. The months after the wedding were intense. The association grew with scholarships for 50 students, support for 30 families at risk of losing their housing, and job training for more than 100 people. I worked there 4 days a week. It was real work that changed something. One afternoon at the end of September, my Aunt Amalia called. Your mom keeps asking about you, she said. I'm not surprised. She wants me to tell you that she forgives you for everything and that you can come home whenever you want. I let out a short laugh. She forgives me. That's what she said. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She said she forgives you. She presents it as if you had a crisis and she is willing to overlook it. Incredible. She also asked if I knew if you had already spent all the money. She seems convinced that soon you will come back asking for help, but she is wrong. The money is invested, the association is going well, and I am happier than I have ever been in my entire life. I know, daughter. It shows in your voice. After hanging up, I sat with Fernando in the living room of our house. We had chosen it as a couple, not as a refuge, not as a statement, as a home. My mom apparently forgives me, I told him. Fernando raised an eyebrow. How generous. She also believes I'm going to come back crawling when I spend all the money. Does it make you want to? Even a little? Not even a little. And it was true. I don't miss them. I continued. I don't think about them except when my aunt tells me something. And even then it doesn't hurt the same. It's just information. I don't hate them, I don't wish them harm. I simply no longer owe them my peace. That sounds quite healthy. The only thing that sometimes weighs on me are Alejandro's children. They are not to blame. Fernando came closer and put an arm around my shoulders. You built an entire association to help young people like them. Only you do it through the right channels with clear rules for people who appreciate it and don't demand it as if it were an obligation. He was right. I was helping a lot, but on my terms, without blackmail, without screens, without people who despised me when I was down and claimed me when I was up. My life was good. I had a husband who loved me for who I was, a chosen job, friends who were happy to see me well, and my Aunt Amalia, the only person in my family who had decided to love me without conditions. I didn't need my parents' approval. I didn't need to return to the table where they left empty chairs next to me. I didn't need to convince my siblings that I was worth something. I won the lottery, yes, but what truly changed my life was stopping sitting where they made me feel like a burden. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.